What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Red String Movie Podcast, the podcast where everything is connected. I'm your host, Jacob Thompson, and joining me is my co-host, friend, and the person most likely to fake his own death by pointing a fake gun at himself and then getting a tomato and mashed up going, ah! Alex Perkins. Perk, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. Did you say potato?
I meant tomato.
Yeah, it makes a little more sense with a tomato.
Hey, you can get creative, you know?
People stop believing that maneuver after the first couple times you pull it, I've found.
Yeah, this is the smell of the fresh tomato.
Yeah, and the fact that you've done it several times before.
That is fair. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. This is a show where every week Perk and I review a movie connected to the last one we watched. If you like our show, tell your friends about it. We post on podcast service and YouTube pretty much every Friday. And yeah, come watch some movies with us. Last week, we watched Heat, starring Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, and also featuring Jon Voight, which leads us to this week's movie, the original Mission Impossible. We also are going to do kind of a bonus section at the end, reviewing the most recent Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, and we will go into spoilers, which we don't normally do for new releases, but we announced it last week, so we'll be doing spoilers on that. But we'll start off by talking about the original Mission Impossible. Perk, why don't you intro for us?
Yeah, all right. So I had this whole dual intro planned out, so I'm gonna go.
Okay,
for
go for the dual intro.
The Mission Impossibles 1 and 7 are 1996 and 2023 joints, directed by Brian De Palma and Christopher McQuarrie, respectively, starring Tom Cruise and Ving Rhames. And those are the and whoever plays Kittredge, I don't know, that guy.
That would be Mr. Henry Cerny, I think is how you say his last name.
Good enough.
Yeah.
And they're about Tom Cruise, who's a spy, and he runs around and beats the bad guys.
There you go.
A couple fun facts for you. In Mission Impossible 1, the scene where Tom Cruise is barely hanging off the ground, off of the pressure plates.
Mm-hmm.
His head kept hitting the ground, so he came up with the idea to weigh down his shoes with coins in the tips of his shoe.
That's cool. That seems like something Ethan Hunt would do. You know,
it does.
It does. That.
And then in a kind of a fun tie between numbers 1 and 7, the scene where Ethan is messing around with the knockless drive, and then also the scene where they are messing around with the key in number 7. Mm-hmm. The sleight of hand scenes are practically done and just real sleight of hand.
Yeah.
Which supposedly led to need for many more takes, but it's cooler that way.
Yeah. Now we'll talk about when we get to Mission Impossible 7, but there are more callbacks to the first Mission Impossible than any other Mission Impossible movie ever. Mission 7 has so many callbacks to the original, so I'm really glad we did this double feature.
Definitely quite a few.
Yeah, it was a great call. But yeah, we'll get to that in the back half of the show. I'll start off with the original Mission Impossible. Perk, remind me, when was the last time you saw this movie, and what did you think of it this time?
A long time ago. I couldn't tell you. Probably a decade ago or more. Yeah, it's great. It's great in a lot of ways that the series has gone a very different direction, but
yeah,
at a base level, the original Mission Impossible is really lean. It's really well written. It's got good characters, a good story, and fun action. Overall, just a really good time. It's funny to say in summary, the only weak point for me was, I think, the final action set piece with the helicopter in the tunnel.
Bit goofy.
Kind of lost me a little bit there. Yeah. And the funny thing to think about is, of all of the aspects of this movie that were so well done, that's the one that they decided to go way deeper on in the further movies. Just these huge, ridiculous action set pieces, which are undeniably very fun. But definitely not the strong point of this one for me.
Sure. Yeah, I really, really love this movie. This is one of my favorite of the entire franchise. I love how it's more of a mystery, and there's kind of more twists throughout than we normally get, and the twists I think are genuinely very good. Like there's a lot of like
not obvious.
Oh shit moments, yeah. That like great surprises. Yeah, I just love Ethan's character in this and kind of his whole plan and him figuring out slowly kind of what actually happened. Like just the opening 30 minutes of this movie are fucking insane and just awesome. Where his entire team just gets annihilated. And I know that the direction and the camera work is a bit divisive with some people because it's very stylized. Of a lot of the angles are pretty, strange.
Such angles, you say.
And the dual focus shots are kind of off-putting at times. But overall, I like that they went for it. The first-person camera in scenes I thought was really, really cool. So I love the direction from Brian De Palma in the first one. I think it adds a lot of personality, and it just kind of adds the uneasiness and the paranoia that is in a lot of this film. So yeah, I really, really love the first Mission Impossible. It's great.
I very much agree with you on the direction. I think it on occasion it does stand out, but not in a bad way. Like it stands out in a way that you would want it to stand out.
Yeah.
Whereas, like realistically, with the newer ones, nothing about the direction stands out. It's kind of set into the formula. This is how it's going to go. Nothing too out there because they don't want to distract. But this is a movie where it's like, no, we're going to try some stuff.
Yeah.
Throw some stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, and just going into it, I want to talk about the opening because I think this is one of the strongest openings of an action movie ever, where we get the really cool scene which is called back to later in the franchise, but where they're trying to get this, I guess, Russian dude, I think, to spill something in this hotel room, but it turns out that's all a set and it was all set up, and it's Ethan in a mask. I think this is a nice like kind of set piece to kind of open and set up the world a little bit. And then we just get like the awesome, Jim Phelps getting the mission on the plane and using the cigarette smoke to cover up the exploding mission briefing and all that stuff. It's just so cool and such a great way to like, set up the world. And then we get right into the intro with the hottest intro music of all time. Yeah, it just
undeniably.
I'm sure there's some nostalgia talking for me too because I saw this movie when I was younger, but this stuff is just so cool, man. I really, really love it.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. The whole intro is really fantastic because it's the kind of setup that I've never seen anywhere else. Like rarely, like the premise of starting off with a hit team where within the first 10 minutes everybody on the team is dead. Like it's just it's so cool. And also, I had completely mind wiped that Emilio Estevez is in this movie.
He's uncredited. That's a
which is for the reason because that was the point.
Well, but every other person that dies is credited. Like he's not in the credits. The thing is wild. I think he for the amount he was in this movie.
Yeah, and 10 minutes of work, and maybe it was part of the ruse was to not credit him to make it, I don't know, seem a little weird.
Maybe, yeah. But like, even though they all die,
I forgot he was in it at all.
Even though they all die so quickly, I still felt it because I feel like in that scene where they meet up and they're discussing the plan, there's camaraderie there among them, and you kind of feel their friends have been around the block before, and then you care because Ethan Hunt cares. Like, he flips out and he's like, I mean, granted, he cancels the abort. He's like, no, we're going after the knock list. But I think his like passion really comes through, and then we get the incredible scene in the phone booth. I think it's probably one of my favorite in the movie where he's like, they're all dead. So yeah, I think Tom Cruise is fantastic in this film. I think he really sells like all the emotion.
Yeah, and to an extent where I feel like in the more recent ones, he doesn't have this kind of emotional base to his performances. And there are some scenes that are supposed to be heart-wrenching, but it's harder to care because Tom Cruise is absolutely giving it his all in this first one.
Yeah. And same with Kittredge. I fucking love Kittredge. He's such a piece of shit. But
yes.
he has a good reason theoretically in this first movie of he thinks there's a mole and all that.
He is delightfully like evil.
Yeah.
And he's evil enough, like he's a good guy, but he's evil enough that in theory he could be the bad guy.
Oh yeah, you could totally believe it.
Yeah. Which like I had forgotten the context, so I saw these out of order. I saw 7 first just because of time constraints, but I had forgotten about that, and he's kind of the same way in the new one too, where it's like,
awesome.
what are you doing here, dude? Like, yeah.
Well, yeah, in 7, that's the first time he's been back.
Which I
Since the
didn't know.
original.
I had totally forgotten. I feel like that's maybe a weakness of this series is just the exchangeability of the CIA guys. Because like, wasn't Alec Baldwin was in a couple of them?
Yeah, he was in 4 and 5. No, 5 and 6 maybe. Yeah, 5 and 6.
5 and 6.
He becomes the director of the IMF, and then I guess he's just gone now. I don't know.
Just off screen.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, no, I agree. There are very few rememberable characters in the franchise. I think Philip Seymour Hoffman is probably one of the best as the villain of Mission Impossible 3. But I think Kittredge is one of those people. You know, he's in this first movie. He's very memorable because he's just a piece of shit. But he turns out to be, you know, on the good guys kind of. So it's really fun to see him back in the new one. But yeah, and this is also the first time we get to see Ving Rhames, who I really loved in this first one. We'll talk about how I thought of him in 7. But he's great being this earnest guy who he's disavowed, but he's got the skills, you know. And you already kind of see the friendship between him and Ethan kind of form in the first one.
Yeah, I thought Ving Rhames was terrific. You're right. The chemistry is already there, and he fits the role perfectly, and he's clearly having a great time with it.
Yeah.
That's all you really need.
Yeah. The only stuff I think is, besides the goofiness of the final scene, the other thing I'm just kind of like, I don't know. It's all the Claire stuff. Like, I've watched the movie a few times, and on this watch, it made more sense to me of like, okay, the entire time she's working for Jim, and she's trying to seduce him to try and cloud his judgment or whatever. And I'm pretty sure they bang at the end, like before they do the final showdown, which is kind of weird.
It's implied, but they don't waste time on it.
Yeah, which is good. I'm glad they didn't waste time on it. But it's just like, I don't know, all that stuff just feels a bit weird. But I can also buy it if she's intentionally trying to seduce him the entire time because of Jim told her to, you know.
Yeah, and so I had forgotten that twist that she was involved, and it surprised me. Because I think it's played well enough, and the seeds of doubt are sown by Ethan even when he's having. Okay, so a quick aside to talk about the amazing scene where he meets up with Jim, who is miraculously not bad.
Yeah,
and it's just one of my favorite instances of dramatic irony I've ever seen.
Yeah,
where he's talking through to Jim all the ways that Kittredge went through with it, but in his head we see Jim doing it because at this point he's already sussed out that Jim is the bad guy.
But he doesn't know about Claire. He has the 2 different scenarios for Claire.
But yes, he doesn't know. He doesn't know the final nail in the coffin. Which then ends up getting resolved, and I had forgotten that entirely, and I was surprised. I knew that it was going to be Ethan in a mask, but it
still got me though. Like it's such a good plan. If she walks and she sees him, she's like, all right, yeah, here's the deal, and he's like, nope, it's fucking me. It's like, yeah, let's go, dude.
Another, I would say, a difference between the newer movies and this one. I love the gooey CGI masks. I miss them. It's just having it be like a different actor and then a pull off and it's a different actor. I like just the awkward, awful CG just goop being pulled off the face.
Yeah, well, I mean, for this movie, a lot of times it is just Tom Cruise in an old person mask, you know, which I
can appreciate.
Yeah, I appreciate it for as well. There's a lot of practical stuff in this movie, practical like effects and stunts and stuff that gets often Tom Cruise doing everything, which is what he's become known for. And yeah, it really works. I mean, you already mentioned in the trivia, but like, it's Tom Cruise is the one who's being repelled down into the vault. And it just really adds to it. And also just like, how hype is that scene on the train where he's like, we're going to CIA, and Victor's like, oh, this is going to be hard. And he's like, Tom Cruise is like, don't worry, it's way harder than you think it is. And they break down the security system. Like, that's my favorite part of Mission Impossible, is like the heist part is like,
yes,
here's the objective. We got to do this thing. Here's all the layers. Here's the plan. The plan goes wrong. How do we, like, that's why Mission Impossible 4 is one of my favorites, with the Dubai hotel, the Burj Khalifa.
Oh yeah.
Because that whole plan is really fun. And it's something I was really missing in 7, which again, we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the heist in this movie, and it's that the security is so freaking ridiculous. Like, there's no way in hell that this would actually exist, but you don't care because it's cool and it's fun.
Yeah, just who gives a damn? Another thing, because let's just go over the scene where they break into the CIA in Langley and steal the data.
Yeah.
There is so much about this scene that I love that wouldn't really happen in a newer movie. Like, especially in this franchise, just with the progression of tech.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, like, in the newer Mission Impossibles, they'd have, like, a heat ray that would suck the data out of the machine from, like, the next block over. But on a very specific level, there would be an automatic repel.
Yeah.
The fact that Krieger is actively holding Tom Cruise up for that whole scene, it is literally taught.
Yeah.
Pun intended, because it's like the tension in that scene is so great just because of how many things are going on. A bead of sweat, the temperature in the room, the noise of a rope being dragged.
Yep.
Like, Krieger must be like allergic to rats or something, because he's like desperately holding on to, like, all of these things just ratchet up the tension in a way that would kind of be lost with the advent of, like, special tech.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also at the same time, he has these ridiculous large discs, which adds to it too, because there's actually a thing.
Right.
Whereas, like, the flash drive's in my pocket. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I will say, they didn't. I think they haven't fully lost that, at least to some of the newer ones. Like, again, I'll bring back Mission Impossible 4. When he's climbing the Burj Khalifa with the gloves, one of them breaks, and he's like, "All right, I got to deal with this." Or in that same movie, they have to get to a server, so they have Jeremy. It's like this giant cooling chamber. So Jeremy Renner wears that, like, magnetic vest, and he has to jump into that fan, and then they catch him with the robot, and he's like floating along to get. So there's still some of that stuff, at least again in 4. But I agree with it. I agree with you. I think that scene is so well crafted. And
it is.
It just shows how goofy the final scene is. Like, the helicopter going into the tunnel being pulled, like, that thing would not last 2 seconds.
No, it wouldn't have made it in there, like, in the first place. The train would have pulled it to the ground immediately.
Exactly. There's even enough lift inside of the tunnel to have a, like, helicopter fly.
No, and, like,
it doesn't make any sense.
When the blades are, like, bouncing off the ceiling, just, what are you doing?
And he's like, I'm going to try to cut Ethan's throat with the helicopter blades. It's like, what are you doing?
This guy is just the most adept helicopter pilot of all time.
I will say, what I do love about that scene is when Ethan initially climbs up onto the roof, and John Voight's he's trying to climb to the end of it. Ethan's jacket flies up behind it over his head because of the wind, and then it gets pulled off of him, and Jim sees it fly past, and that's how he realizes Ethan's behind him. That practicality I love.
It's a really nice touch.
And he feels like in the place, and then they kind of, when the helicopter gets involved, it gets kind of crazy. But
because I had forgotten how that scene went, but like, up until the helicopter got hooked on to the train, I was like, is this just better than the train in the new movie? It feels a lot more real, and then it felt a lot less real.
Yeah.
Real quickly, but for a moment there, that scene is very cool. It's goofy enough, but whatever, it's fun. So who cares?
One other really small thing about the train scene that I always forget about, and it always gets me, is Ving Rhames is trying to jam the signal to Max's computer with his little cell phone pointed at it, and he walks away because Kittredge is on his way, and then that fucking attendant grabs the phone. He's like, "You forgot your phone, sir," and it's like, you idiot. And it's like the little stuff that goes wrong every time is what gets me the tension.
Also, that scene was funny because when he hands him his phone back, coincidentally 11 people sitting around him are on their phone, and they're like, what where I lost signal. Why is everybody calling somebody? Whatever, I don't care.
Yeah, man, it's so good. And also with Max, I think is really fun with him getting kidnapped. And again, shot at the first person camera, like him going to the meet, and we're in first person, and the guy lights a match, and the car pulls up, and he gets in. They put the hood over his head. Like, we don't get first person camera a lot anymore, and I bring it back, man. I loved it in this movie.
Well, did you ever see that movie? The one
Doom?
That was fully Hardcore Henry.
Oh no, I feel like I'll get
motion sick. Yeah, a little bit. Fully POV for the whole movie. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
POV shots are fun.
I remember it coming out, and I'm like, I kind of want to see that, but also I'm like, I might throw up.
Watch it on like an iPad on the table or something.
Yeah, that might be the play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really love this movie. I think it's not, when people rank the Mission Impossible movies, I feel like it's not high enough ever. Because like, none of them have the mystery of this one. There's so much like cool mystery, and him figuring out what actually happened is so fun.
So I will say, like, I don't know why it's like this. I have an incredibly spotty memory of the Mission Impossible movies.
Mhm.
I've seen them all.
Mhm.
I have. But something about some of them just doesn't hit as hard for me. I know nothing about Mission Impossible 2.
I've never
I
seen
know
it. I never will.
nothing.
I've heard 2 is horrible.
I've seen it at some point. 3, I remember because I know it's really dark and Philip Seymour Hoffman is great.
Yeah.
4 and 5 are a hodgepodge. I didn't even remember the Dubai scene until you mentioned it. I mean, I knew that scene was from Mission Impossible, but I couldn't have pinned down where it was from.
Right.
I had forgotten Jeremy Renner was involved. Is he a good guy?
Yeah, he's a good guy, but he's only in 4. He's a cameo in 5, but yeah, he's on the team.
Yeah, 5, I got nothing. 6, I remember pretty vividly. A lot of it for the set piece at the end, which is awesome with the helicopter and on the cliffs.
And dude, 6 also got the Halo jump in the thunderstorm, which is
that's right.
Like 6 is probably my favorite, just because those set pieces are insane.
But 1 stands out.
Yeah.
Because so much of it is so memorable. I feel like after 1, all the villains kind of feel like villain of the week, other than the one guy who talks in a whisper.
Solomon Lane, he's from 5 and 6. Yeah.
Right.
And Philip Seymour Hoffman, though. Like,
right. That's true.
So it's really just like 4 and 2. We don't know.
But there's so much plot depth to focus on in this movie that I just feel like it hits a little differently and is more impactful as a film.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Like as the series goes on, it becomes more about the stunts. But also I think it, like, especially 4, 5, and 6 are about the team with Simon Pegg getting in there, Rebecca Ferguson, and Ving Rhames.
Please do not put any disrespect on Rebecca Ferguson.
I apologize, because Simon Pegg especially is so fun, and him and Ethan's dynamic is so fun.
He joins in 4?
Yeah, he's in 4.
Okay.
Paul Patton's there, but she never comes back. And Jeremy Renner's there, but he never comes back. So that's where they get Simon Pegg, and then Ving Rhames comes back in 5. That's where Rebecca Ferguson joins in 5. And I think that's like 5 and 6. That combo is really, really great. But yeah, if we want to transition to 7 now, anything else you want to talk about with?
Yeah, I don't know. Pretty glowing. Just a really fun movie.
Yeah, it's a great time.
But yeah, we can move on to the recently released Mission Impossible 7 Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1.
So again, spoilers if you haven't seen it. We're going to go full spoilers on this.
Now would be the time to shut her down.
Go watch it and come back and listen to this.
Yep.
If I can go first, Perk.
Please do.
I was a bit disappointed by this movie.
All right.
I came in with pretty high expectations because Christopher McQuarrie has done great with the last Mission Impossible movies. Like I said, 6 is probably my favorite of all time. With the team dynamic and the stunts. And, you know, we mentioned Solomon Lane was a great villain and really going after Ethan and bringing in his wife back as like a bargaining chip in 6 was like so like just well done, you know?
Yeah.
And 7 was just missing the plot for me. Like the AI stuff was just so goofy, but they weren't in on the joke. Like I feel like for 4, 5, and 6, I mean, and the series has always been kind of a goofy action movie franchise, but it feels like the cast is having fun and they realize like this is kind of an action movie. We're trying to have fun. It felt like in 7, like, no, AI is bad and it's going to become a thing in the real world and we want you to be scared of it. And so we're going to have these exposition scenes like last way too fucking long, people talking about the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And just really pound it into the AI is bad. And it just doesn't hit the same when Ethan's going up against not a person. Like, I feel like the hero villain dynamics are, like we just talked about, like, usually pretty good in these movies. And him going after this entity. And granted, there's Gabriel, but they just retcon that. Well, not retcon, but now they're like, hey, here's Ethan's backstory we never gave you before.
Right.
And
so I had thought because I saw 7 first, I was like, oh, he's from the first movie? No.
This is what we had seen before.
They invented a scene It's in black and white, probably too high de-aging tech.
So I saw an article they were gonna do de-aging on his face, but they thought it was too distracting, so they just have his back of the head in those shots.
Fair enough.
Yeah, which I think was a good choice.
Yes, I definitely agree.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so the villain I thought was like a through line, like back from the original, but no, it's an added backstory that we didn't know about.
And I think that could have worked if they had more Ethan talking about it more. Like, yeah, before I joined that, I mean, we'll get that in part 2, but like,
we probably will.
We probably will, but it wasn't enough for this movie to sustain it and me to care about Gabriel. Besides Ethan just being freaked out, and we didn't get a lot of the crew dynamics. Like I think we had the great scene of Simon Pegg disarming the bomb. I think it's really good, and having to answer the riddles and stuff. But Rebecca Ferguson dies, and I should feel bad because I love Ilsa as a character from the last movies, and I didn't feel it because we didn't get a lot of time with her in this movie. And then they kill her. I'm just like, it didn't hit, and I just felt unsatisfied from. I would never thought I'd say I was unsatisfied from plot and character because I'm going for the action scenes, but the action scenes weren't enough for me to sustain this as a Mission Impossible movie because I really care about the franchise and the characters and stuff. So, yeah, I was a bit disappointed, unfortunately.
So, letter to the listener: we haven't talked about this movie off record.
That's true.
And like you pretty much agreed with me on literally everything. Like we have almost the same take on a lot of it. The movie, it definitely tested my patience.
Yeah.
It's long and it feels long, and you're right, it's because there is a lot of exposition about AI. There is a lot of time dedicated to establishing and building up Haley Atwell's character, who I think she's good, but at the end of the day, it's like, oh, so we're just trading a female lead for female lead.
Yeah.
The Rebecca Ferguson death. So once again, I remember nothing about these movies. So I knew she was in the last couple, but I don't remember anything about Ilsa. And her death was obvious, and it was gonna happen. It like almost the second she came back, and they were like having a hug, and it's like, yeah she's gonna die. I feel like a lot of this movie was insanely predictable, which for a movie where the last one ended with the bad guy getting caught by a hook from a falling helicopter, like the predictability just really was tough for me because almost every point in this movie I saw it coming.
The writing was just so weak, man. Like, this is the weakest written Mission Impossible movie by far, and I heard someone say it was overwritten, and I totally agree. And like every time Carrie Elways is on screen, I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, I love Carrie Elways, and you're making it this so boring. Like,
remind me who Carrie Elways is.
He's the head of the defense group, and he's the guy who was on the train later that gets killed by Gabriel. He's from The Princess Bride.
Oh, right. The guy who's bad for the sake of bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and like that first scene when Tom Cruise comes in with he's wearing the mask and he uses the green grenades to talk to Kittredge. Those like 4 people going back and forth talking about AI lasts so fucking long, and it's so
really long.
Boring. Like, what are we doing? Just get it. Like, Mission Impossible is great when you have a MacGuffin and then you gotta steal a MacGuffin or like try to get it. And they had the MacGuffin, and they just wasn't interesting to get it at all. Like, we had the cool, like I mentioned, there's a ton of callbacks to the first one, right? There's Kittredge. There's what I actually really loved was Kittredge has a relationship with the White Widow because she's Max's daughter. And at the end of the first movie, Kittredge and Max kind of make a deal.
That context.
And so it would make sense that he knew her as a kid because of Max.
Yeah.
We get the sleight hand stuff. We get the train.
Ending on a train.
We get the MacGuffin has 2 pieces that have to come together, like the knock list. One thing I thought, I forget the actual code, but in Mission Impossible 1, when Ethan calls the phone booth and he has to give his designation, it's like Echo 911 or whatever.
Yeah,
he gives the same exact code when the food delivery guy comes in 7, which I thought was really fun. So yeah, it seemed like they were trying to go back to 1, but it's like, if you're trying to go back to 1, then do a mystery.
Then do a story.
Do a story. Don't just be like, hey guys, AI is bad. And like, I think it's ironically too late to do an AI is bad story because now it's become in the common zeitgeist. It feels like the wrong time to do it. Like, I don't know.
So on that topic, I think this one is actually the front of the wave. and I am already sick of AI as the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I think we're gonna see so many more AI as the bad guy films upcoming soon.
Yeah.
And like people are saying, like, yeah, it was kind of predictive because they made this movie before all the Chat GPT and stuff like that. But man, oh man, it's just I get it. AI is terrifying. Like if you look back at something like Terminator, yeah, that's AI, but the difference there being
it was sci-fi,
and also it's Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Mhm.
whereas this is a circle on a screen.
Yeah.
If this is going to be the trend, we are going to lose out on so many good villains because there's just no villain. It's just this literally the entity.
Yeah.
And you can't develop a relationship. You can't. It's not a character foil. It's just a void.
Yeah.
It's just lack. And I'm sick of it already. I think it's one of the weaker points in the movie. Gabriel is in there. He has motivation, I guess, but it's another typical, like, why is there this one human who wants everyone to die? I never get that, but whatever.
Yeah.
Fun
fact, apparently he was supposed to be Nicholas Hoult, but he couldn't do it because of scheduling conflicts. I'm not sure if that'd be better or worse.
I think it would be more distracting, actually. And I thought, for what it's worth, I thought the actor who played Gabriel was very good.
I agree.
With what little he had to do.
Yeah, and I think the cast on the whole is phenomenal. Like
I
think Haley Atwell's acting was fantastic. Like when she had to act scared and frightened, like she killed it. Like on the last set piece on the train when he's trying to get her to jump, or he has to jump across first, and she keeps like grabbing him, and she's like freaking the fuck out. I thought she was fantastic. I love Pom Clementif. Gabriel was solid. Like the cast was great. It's just the material was not there. It was not on the page.
So the one though you had mentioned, or you had briefly referred to earlier, Luther's character in this movie.
I didn't like Luther that much in this movie.
So I have a crackpot theory.
Okay.
My thought is he was maybe going through something health-wise.
Like Ving Rhames.
Because he's sitting a lot. He's separated from the crew for most of the movie. Like they write him out so he can go crack the mainframe.
Yeah, and he'll come back for the last moment in the next one, kind of a thing. Yeah,
it feels like he might have been like had something going on.
Yeah,
where he couldn't be there to his fullest. And
and that, and I get it. They're getting old, man. Him and Tom Cruise are getting old, and I really hope this next movie is the last one, unless they'll probably reboot it after. But like, it'll be nice to kind of see these characters put to rest to be done.
Just give them an actual ending.
Yeah.
Not the nonsense. But they'll be back in Dead Reckoning Part 3.
Yeah. I mean, even, again, I'm not trying to be like ageist, but even like Simon Pegg was looking older in this movie.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I don't know how much time has passed since the last one, but.
At what point does this stop being Mission Impossible and start being The Expendables?
Right. Well, I think that's why they are like, Haley Atwell, you're the new class, And if they're going to reboot it, they're probably going to have her. Which, granted, like I said, I liked her a lot in this movie.
Yes, I probably wouldn't go see a movie though if she's the star and there's no Tom Cruise, Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames
driving a motorcycle off a cliff. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But talk about the good. Let's talk about the stunts.
Yeah,
I think. Actually, before that, going to AI really fast. I'll say two things I think was cool with the AI thing that they were able to do. One was Gabriel being erased from the video in real time was cool to look at, and they got him with a reflection, which was clever. And then I liked when it took over Simon Pegg's voice and was mimicking his voice and giving Tom Cruise the wrong directions. That was cool.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I
mean, I agree with you. The voice changer thing is always interesting. Although, like, realistically, if an AI takes over the world, it's not going to be talking to us, bro.
No, but I mean, for that
it's
purpose,
just going to suck all the oxygen out of the sky and be done with us. But yes, at a minimum, it made sense, and it made for a great Tom Cruise running set piece. To circle back though before we get to the good.
Yeah.
You talked about how it was overwritten. I think it's overstaffed too. Like you already mentioned the random CIA guy who's the baddie. Also, knock off Gary Sinise and his partner.
Oh,
Really,
what's his
they
name?
really don't need
Yeah.
to be in the movie at all.
Shea Wiggum.
Yes.
And I do like Shea Wiggum, but also, yeah, they were just extra.
I've not seen him before,
baggage.
other than the fact that he looks like Gary Sinise.
You've seen him before. We can talk about that.
Maybe. And then Paris. Also,
Tom Clementif.
Yeah, she's really good, but why is she in the movie? What?
Yeah, because she has to save him at the end.
She has to save him and give them a necessary plot tidbit, but it's crowded, and yeah, I don't know that a lot of the characters aren't really given enough to do to justify them being in the movie.
Yeah, I mostly agree. I do think the scene at the club when they're all kind of huddled around talking to the White Widow, and it's like who's gonna get the thing was cool. It's like it's cool to have these different groups trying to vie in for this key and stuff. But I don't think it was worth, like you said, the extra crowding and just extra writing they had to do that wasn't that good. Make everything
also, how many movies are we going to see where there's like a rave going on in like an ancient ruin? I feel like this happens all the time now.
Because this got John Wick 2.
John Wick 2. And it happened here. And those are my two anecdotes. But I feel like
I don't think that's enough. I think you need at least one more.
If I had a nickel, I'd have two nickels. It's weird it happened twice.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about the action.
Yes.
The desert didn't really work for me. I wish it did, but I also wasn't helped by the fact that the guy sitting next to me was on his phone for the entire first 30 minutes of the movie, which was driving me fucking crazy.
In his defense,
I don't know what this dude was doing. He was doing some like stock trades or texting or something. He was like,
I was more
in there.
I was more alluding to the fact that the first act's kind of slow.
It's kind of slow. Yeah. Because what was the first scene? Oh, it was the submarine stuff, which that was kind of cool.
Yeah, submarine was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, the desert didn't really do a ton for me. I wanted kind of more of a reveal or something that like, oh, she was actually this or that, but I don't know.
We get we get the 11-second, oh my gosh, she's dead.
Yeah.
Did you buy that one?
No, not for a god. I've seen the trailer. No. Not for a god. I'm second to buy that.
This is what I'm talking about. So much of it's predicted. But
yeah.
I mean, it's whatever. They go to the desert. You get a little set piece. You get some nice, like, close combat stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing too outstanding.
I think the next big set piece is all the car chase stuff. What I think was cool and fun, but also a little bit too long. Like we were in those cars for a very long time, and like the gimmick of them being handcuffed together and like who's driving is like fun, but it was just overstated.
I definitely liked that wrinkle, but I agree with you that it was too long. It kind of reminded me of, I forget which. I think it's the Bourne movie where it's Jeremy Renner. Literally like the last 35 minutes of the movie are a car chase, and then they get to a boat. The end. Like, it's like, what? There wasn't a climax. You forgot to have a standoff. No, they just drove around for a long time.
Yeah. Well, and not to, I'm going to compare because it's the same franchise, but like I think 5 had a better car chase because that's, you have a hard memory of this stuff, which is
I'll take your word for it.
It's the one where Ethan's on the motorcycle and he's trying to chase down Ilsa, and then she stands right in the middle of the road and he has to crash the motorcycle, like, and everything before that is really fun and good. And this one was also fun. Like, it's fun when they get the old small car and he doesn't know how to operate it and stuff, but like it was just a little too long. I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit.
And then like we get stuff at the airport, which is, I like them deep faking Tom Cruise and stuff to kind of juke out people and stuff, but then it's really into the train. I feel like, which we get the motorcycle off the cliff into the train, which for both things, I think the sound design is really what sold me. Like, he goes off the cliff, which is just, you're holding your breath because you know he actually did it.
Yeah.
But then when it cuts to the close up and we hear the wind going past his face like super fast, that's where I was more in it.
Really well done. I agree.
And then when he busts into the train, I was with my buddy Joseph. He was dying laughing, and it is like comedic. It was like, oh, like of fucking course,
Yeah.
And like honestly, we need more of that goofiness. Like we didn't get that for the last movie, and that was like genuinely really funny.
Yeah, I mean, I already talked about how the ending helicopter stuff in Mission Impossible 1 didn't really do it for me. but I was definitely cheesing the whole time.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
just laughing, just like what even is going on. But yeah, I agree. Some of that camp is super nice to get in there to lighten the tone a little bit.
Yeah. Well, then before we get into the big stuff at the end, I don't know why I like this so much because it was never done before, but I love that when Haley Atwell was wearing the mask, her eye color was still brown.
Yeah, I like that too.
Was blue, but I'm also shocked her brother didn't notice. But
yeah, also like they make colored contact lenses, guys.
I know, but I don't know. It was like
you got all this tech, and then you don't want to commit to put contact lenses in.
But I don't know why, but I just really liked it because it felt more like not just Vanessa Kirby doing a Haley Atwell impression.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure it was Vanessa Kirby
doing a Haley Atwell impression. Yeah. Yes,
but it was like it just sold way more because of the eyes. And I just really like that. But yeah. Anyway, the train stuff at the end, when him and Gabriel are fighting on top of the train, the sound, like I said, the sound design was insanely good. Like when they're in the tunnel and the like lights on the ceiling are like rushing past them, and it was like so scary because you're like, if they even touch one of those, they're fucking done. Like no questions asked.
I love too when Gabriel starts crawling at him with the knife. It's like, yeah,
it's like, bro, chill, dude. We're on break right now.
Yeah, this is timeout, dude.
It's timeout. So yeah, I thought they killed it with all that sound design and stuff, and like even just like the runaway train part of it as well, where they're like the train's speeding up, it's not stopping. We got that dealing on all this stuff, and then the final set piece with the cars dropping. My God, they just kept going, and I'm glad they did because for me it was the kitchen car that really like sold it. Of like the oil on the ground and they're slipping and they grab the dishwasher and it falls down, and it just like I really love that stuff because it felt so just like thought out and like in that world.
That set piece saved the movie for me. It's so like all of everything on the train I love.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
And yeah, when you're like, God, surely at some point it's going to stop, right? Surely one of these cars will stop. I think momentum would suggest no, they're gonna keep falling. They're all gonna fall, but whatever. We can hand wave that. But yeah, the vertical climb through each different level is just so awesome. And like just even the views from when when the back of the train breaks off and you can just see straight to the ground. It's like the Dark Knight Rises scene where they tip a plane. Remember that?
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
What a great opening scene. Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, I think pairing Ethan with Grace was so smart because we have the season pro with the newbie and kind of their reactions being so different. I think really helped like make that scene even more interesting and more fun because she's just losing her mind, but like we have to keep going or we're gonna fucking die. And like Paris saving them at the end, maybe a little cheesy, but hey, we got the necessary piece of information that'll lead us into part 2. And everyone got out okay. So and I agree. I think that set piece really saved the movie, but this movie did not need to be 2 hours 45 minutes. It was
too long. I agree. It's just it's doughy in the expositional scenes, and guys, we all know what AI is. We don't have to dwell on it for so long.
Yeah,
it feels like after what AI was in the 90s.
It feels like after COVID, now we can't make movies about diseases anymore because I'm just already sick of it. It's like the same thing now. It's with AI. It's like
it's going to be lots and lots of this.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about The Creator, which is a movie coming out in September, which is about AI as well. But that's more in the future, and it seems like really good. The movie looks like it could be good.
There's going to be more nuance to it for sure.
Yeah.
Rather than just evil computer. Like there's actually a character involved.
That's true. Yeah. It's like a robot that's actually can emote and talk.
Yeah. Before we close, I want to bring to the table something that stumped me.
Okay.
For the last year.
Okay.
And it hasn't. This movie coming out has done me in even worse. Why does this movie have a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes critic score and Bullet Train have like a 50? I don't get why everyone hates Bullet Train, bro. I don't
I'm right there with
understand
you.
it.
I'm right there with you.
I usually side with like I follow a bunch of critics. A lot of the critics I follow hated Bullet Train, like one of the worst movies that they'd seen. I don't
I
get it.
don't get it. It was
I
so
don't
freaking
know.
fun, dude.
Bullet
And the
Train, yeah,
ending,
it's awesome.
the way it comes together at the end, like, is amazing, and that really like enhances the entire movie. Yeah.
Like you can say whitewashing, sure.
Yeah,
But I don't
fair.
think that's enough to tank the movie. Michael Shannon's good, so who cares?
Everybody's good in that movie.
Yeah,
except for Joey King.
They have a lot of characters, but all the characters get development. You know, there's no Paris who's just on screen a couple times looking intimidating. You know,
you could argue Zazie Beetz' character, but she has some build up as being like an assassin.
True, and they get the ridiculous the water bottle having a character arc too.
Yeah,
it's always great. But yeah,
I'm
that
with you.
That movie is so much better written, in my opinion,
mm-hmm.
and the action is fun as well, and all of the character dynamics are super cool.
Yeah,
and you could argue that it was too long, as if Mission Impossible weren't too long. We don't even get to the train for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
I don't. Basically, my soapbox is: why does everyone hate Bullet Train, but the train scene at Mission Impossible is just good fun? Is it people looking through a different lens? I don't know.
I don't know. And
let us know in the comments below. Ring that bell. Don't forget to subscribe.
Well, and it feels like too, like with just 7, it felt like, and this maybe isn't the worst way to approach the movie, but it feels like, what's the craziest stunts we can do? Okay, let's make a movie around that.
Let's make a movie around that.
As opposed to, and I don't know how they did the writing previously, but it felt like the older movies is like, okay, let's have a story, and then, okay, what cool set pieces can we do? Or
we can go somewhere. What could be cool that we do there?
Yeah,
I guess.
I don't know. It just felt like the stunts were like by far and away the most important thing when they're making this movie, and they just didn't give enough time to everything else. And who knows? Maybe it was all set up, and the next one will be great. But unless I need a cool heist, we didn't get a cool heist in this movie. I hope the submarine is a cool heist, but also I'm like, how can that be a cool heist?
Trouble is, what are they? Yeah, what are they going to heist? What are they going to take?
Has Tom Cruise already gone to space, or is that later? Because I know he wanted to film something in the ISS, but I don't know if that was for Mission Impossible 8 or for a different movie.
Yeah, I don't know if that ever happened. I feel like we would have heard about it.
Yeah,
but I think it was supposed to be for Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I don't know. So maybe they'll go to space.
I mean, they did mention a lot of satellites.
That's true. The AI's taken over all the satellites, so maybe they'll have to go to space to get one.
Maybe.
I hope it's good, and it won't be coming out for a long time because of the strikes. But
I mean, like, at a minimum, this movie's not bad. It's quite good.
It's not as good as it could have been. But
yes, it had so much room to be better.
Yeah, like Fallout.
Like
is so fucking good.
I would definitely still say go see this on a really big screen.
Yeah.
It's worth the $12 of admission price, 100%. But it was a little bit of a letdown because when you're expecting the moon and you land in Texas, it's like
yeah. Well, and you already.
What an odd comparison. Can we just strike that one from the record?
Yeah, we can get it.
I'm sorry, Texans. I didn't mean to come at you like that.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the Rotten Tomatoes thing. Like, I don't get how. Yeah, Mission Impossible 7 has an 81 on Metacritic. The original has a 59. I don't get that at all.
It's a better movie.
It's a better movie.
Yeah.
Well, even if it's not even if you only it's a better movie, how does it have a 59? It's not a 6 out of 10. It's at least a 7 out of 10.
It's funny too because like the movies, despite being in the same franchise, are almost incomparable.
But
they're so different.
They tried 7 tried to copy 1 with so much stuff. So it's so weird.
They did. They pulled a lot from the original. But the scale is so different that they kind of get lost in the fray.
Lost in the sauce, yeah. So yeah, I just hope that 8 is a fitting end to this franchise because I love this franchise a lot, and I hope that end well. But yeah, I just need a heist. If they give me a good heist, I'll be happy.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'll just mention a quick bonus review. I'm still watching Suits. I'm addicted to that show. I love it, and I'm gonna keep watching it. Right now, I want to finish it because I never finished it before. And I know that Dulé Hill shows up at some point and becomes a main character. And I love Dulé Hill from Psych.
Okay.
So I like to get at least that far.
Sure.
So yeah, I love that show, and it's become a problem where I'm staying up too late watching Suits, but
Yeah, I mean, it just means it's a good show.
I know. It's hard when it's a 45-minute show because I'm used to watching anime, which is
true.
20 minutes, and the 45 is rough.
Right.
And I'm like, one more, and then it's 1:30.
I generally find though, if I have like a 20-minute show versus an hour-long show, I would just watch 3 of the 20-minute anyway.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
It adds up anyway. Like I keep saying, like, oh, I'd rather just watch Futurama because it's quick and I could be done, and then it's like 10 episodes later and I'm asleep on the couch.
yeah. Exactly. And just a tease, I will have some anime coming up. I brought back the waking up in the morning watching anime routine. I wrote my roommates into it. So I'll have something for that relatively soon. But yeah, there we go. That's our show for this week. I guess recommendations. I don't know. Watch more Tom Cruise
Mission
movies.
Impossible.
Top Gun, Maverick.
What is number 6 called? Fallout.
Yeah, watch Fallout. Fallout.
Watch 6.
But yeah, if you're gonna watch 6, you gotta watch 5 because the same villain and there's a through line.
Sure.
But also you have to watch 3 because it's his wife. And
Also, I would, if I watch those again, I would get to know what Rebecca Ferguson actually does.
Yeah. Which
other than look stunning. Oh my gosh.
Dude, yeah, I saw a meme on Twitter of like Mission Impossible 7, don't fall in love. Because everybody in this movie is hot as hell. It's just like, what do you want from me, man? Yeah, I was actually really happy to see Pom Clemente because she's done a lot of action now with like she was Mantis and Guardians, and she's a lot of other own stunts for that. And then I was looking at her IMDb, she's done some other action stuff. So keep putting her in action movies. She was great. She had great ferocity and stuff.
Definitely.
Playing as Harley Quinn, essentially.
Fair enough.
Yeah, there we go. That is our show for this week. Next week, we are going to be following Mr. Jean Reno from the original. He plays Krieger, to his most famous movie, Leon the Professional. Because, Perk, you've never seen it, right?
Correct. I've never seen it.
I've only seen parts of it, and it was when I was a kid. Natalie Portman's first film, so I'm very excited to watch that next week. That is on Netflix. So yeah, next week will be Leon the Professional on Netflix. But until then, thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye.